My name is Jose Belen. I'm a United States Army combat veteran. I was part of the invasion into Iraq in 2003 at 20 years old. I turned 21 and 22 in theater as our division was tasked with securing Baghdad. So being a field artillery combat vet, seen all the horrible things you can imagine, children dying, losing your lieutenant, your best friend. I mean, I can sit here for hours and tell you all the stories. When we come home, we are not the same. I may look like I'm whole, but unfortunately there's an invisible wound that cannot be seen. We're losing a veteran of suicide every 65 to 72 minutes. I myself was nearly one of them. I have struggled for the entire 15 years that I've been home, in large part due to the medications from the VA. In 2017, I decided to start an organization called Mission Zero, dedicated to ending veteran suicide. It's a nonprofit. My wife and myself, and I'm a full believer in the unity and community. This mission that I put together, I cannot do it alone. It's going to take all of us. So I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you, Jose.
I'm Joshua Littrell, combat veteran, United States Air Force, and Jose and I were in theater in 2003 in Iraq. And I was a nuclear biological chemical detection technician in the Air Force. The peacetime job was a bioenvironmental engineer, so I dealt with occupational health, preventative medicine, and environmental protection. So, the biggest thing that we want to really focus on is reducing the suicides. I don't think we can ever end them, but we can damn sure reduce them. But the part that nobody really talks about is the 25 veterans dying at a 50% greater rate from accidental overdose than civilians do. As Jose said, the VA just throws meds at us over and over again. So why are we not utilizing industrial hemp-based products from a CBD standpoint and giving that to our veterans right now? And why are the veterans not the ones that are growing that medicine and supplying that to the VA, circumventing the pharmaceutical companies? Because that can give them a job, that can give them a new mission. And with Mission Zero and what Jose's doing, the key for us in the veteran community is when we get out of the military, you lose that sense of mission. So we've got to be able to find a new alternative and to provide our men and women with a new mission in life. And that mission can be both industrial hemp and medical cannabis. And when we say cannabis, it's cannabis is cannabis. Whether it's industrial hemp or medical marijuana, we focus on that either way. I'm founder and CEO of Veterans for Cannabis, and we're an advocacy group that also has been in the industrial hemp industry since 2015. We have a farm in Wisconsin, and we'll have a farm in Georgia and Florida, a few farms in Georgia and Florida coming up in 2020 as well. So our focus is really getting veterans out from behind the TV, out from behind the computer, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and getting them to focus on agrotherapy, where they actually help grow something, make medicine out of that, put it into their bodies, and get better. Because PTS, about 80% of PTS is combined with chronic pain. If we can relieve or mitigate that chronic pain, it reduces the PTS symptoms, which then alleviates the issues and helps them get better as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Joe.
My name's Joe Griffith. Served in the United States Air Force. I served in support of Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield. There I was a cannabis instructor, which basically is a weapons instructor, taught all base personnel. Since I did that, I was also a SWAT sniper for our police force there. The past 22 years, I have been a fireman. I am at a very busy house. We usually run anywhere from 15 to 16 calls a shift. Wow. I have 15 miles of I-75 that I cover just alone, and we get some really bad accidents. Actually, our area there in Manatee County is the worst in the state, I found out, for accidents because of all the construction going on. But right now, as far as PTSD and first responders, 2017, we had 104 suicides, firefighter suicides. Police had 140. I know of the firefighter, only 40% of those were actually listed as suicide, and with the numbers, they said it actually comes out to 257. Just last month, here in the state of Florida, we had 3 firefighters that committed suicide. Wow. So right now, because it's gotten so bad in the fire service that now they're actually taking steps to try to help us. And that's how I got in this industry, was the lack of sleep, the nightmares. I woke up one morning from grinding my teeth, and I actually cracked my molar. So, I mean, we see it at the fire department all the time, just some of the things that we see and everything. So I could say by taking the CBD, I mean, it's actually helped. But the problem that we have in the fire service is they still look at it as marijuana. They don't care. It's marijuana. And I know right now there are 4 cases in the state of Florida where firefighters are taking CBD and they've been tagged as taking marijuana. So they're actually going through that fight. And when I would start taking this, I actually I got with the union and everything, and they said the best thing we can do is get a doctor's script, and if you do pop positive for a drug test, then it's going to be a lengthy fight. So actually, the fire department kind of backed off a little bit when we told them we're going to get letters, because a lot of guys are using the topical for sore knees, pain, anything like that. And I haven't read really too much about topicals really popping up on a drug test. It's mainly been the tinctures and the water solubles. So that's what we're dealing with now. So I'm trying to go around and educate the fire service on CBD. So hopefully I'll be hearing soon. I'll have another conference here in Orlando coming up in January, February, which is the Safety and Health Conference for the fire service here in Florida. So.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I'm Holly Ford. I founded Zarian Firm, an international business brokerage. I am now have partnered with Cannabis 10X, which is also we help people expand their businesses and grow. And I'm also co-founder. I've never really put this out there, but it's relevant in this panel for a company called business called Freedom Flower, which is freedom from wrongful incarcerations for this. And I think we all need to talk afterwards, because I think we can do a product line based on veterans and service and firemen. So I think that's really cool. I myself, actually, I've never said this publicly, suffered from PTSD. My husband died of cancer, and it was not a beautiful thing. It was 70 days of emergency room, straight solid, sleeping there day and night, 5 years of going through cancer. He had head and neck cancer. So when he would bleed out, it was always a death situation. We survived at one point 9 gram negative infections at one time. He did everything holistically. He had 6 months to live. We did things herbally. I became a certified master herbalist because of it. And he ended up with 5 years and died of a hospital infection, not the cancer. So that's kind of cool in a way. So I did go through that. I treated myself as an herbalist. I did nettle seed. It usually takes about 3 to 6 weeks of nettle seed to get through to help the body as an adaptogen to heal. It took me almost 10 months before I got through that. Had I known about this, things may have been really different. I know now, and I've utilized CBD on occasions at times when there's those flashbacks and good things that happen to you. So although my story is way different from what you all have done, I just really commiserate with this. So first of all, we thank you all for being here today. And we'd like to, we're going to go through kind of the history of PTSD and what we know about it, and the fact that finally there's some research and more things happening in this. It's being seen as a serious disorder rather than, hey, get over it, okay? So let's talk about that. Who wants to address that?
I want to first start by saying, Holly, you're not alone. And we say it all the time that veterans aren't the only ones that suffer from PTS, chronic pain, cancer, all these issues, right? So thank you for sharing your story, because I'm sure there's so many other stories in this building, in this room today that are just like yours. And that's a part of our fight too, is that we are suffering, and everybody equates PTS with the veteran community, but so many civilians suffer from it too, whether it's car accident, sexual trauma, issues like that, losing a loved one. That's all issues. So thank you for sharing, and that's why we fight as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let's talk about the history of this.
Well, I think, I can, just take you back when I came home, in 2005. I was 23, just, survived 2 consecutive combat tours. I'm thinking, I'm okay. And the family's like, look, please go to the VA. And I remember they put a sheet in front of me, asked me a bunch of questions, and the physician said, shell shock. Have you heard of shell shock? And I remember just growing up as a kid, a lot of my friends has, uncles, have, vets and stuff. And I said, well, yeah. And they said, well, we also call it PTSD. Do you know what that is? I said, no. says, well, you're going to be different. You're going to be socially incapacitated, professionally, like all these things, but we can give you these medications to offset all that stuff. You'll sleep well and you'll feel 110% again. And that can't be nothing from the truth. At the end of the day, these, medications are, being made in a lab. They do, benefit some folks, but for veterans like myself and, folks in the struggle, PTSD is nothing that, we want to run around and say we have, but at the end of the day, it's all about accepting that, screw the stigma. I have PTSD, I'm afflicted, but it does not have me. I'm not going to let this control me. And that's why we have to have these conversations. We have almost our own underground community, where we're not family related by blood, but we're related by trauma. And that's my.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's simple. When you look at it from history, it was the shell shock back with World War I, World War II. And the issue has been exacerbated in the last 15 years. And that's because the one thing that they did not have back then was the pharmaceutical dependency. And look, Jose, Joe, and I are not up here to tell you that pharmaceuticals are bad and they're going to kill you, which they do, we know that, but they do have their place, okay? Right. The difference is that with those veterans back in the day, they did not get thrown the medicines that they get thrown now. And in fact, when you take a high-functioning individual that may be suffering with PTSD and you put them on a medicine that makes them a zombie, they no longer care about living. And that's the issue. So instead of doing the pharmaceutical method, let's at least try to mitigate some of that, and let's really focus on therapeutic issues, whether it's group sessions, whether it's agrotherapy, equine therapy, canine therapy, whatever it is. It's getting out, being with your brothers and sisters, being with the people that you love and appreciate. That's how you get better. You don't get better sitting there taking pills at home and doing nothing.
Oh, thank you.
I would say definitely it's coming out and saying something. There's a whole, I'd say machismo mode about, especially in the fire service. No one wants to say that they're hurting. We'll talk about the signs and symptoms later, but, actually just coming out and saying that, you have a problem. I told my wife a story. I had a friend I haven't talked to in a very long time, and he witnessed a bad vehicle accident that I actually went on. And I hadn't heard from him in 2 or 3 years, and he actually called me up and said, hey, I saw the accident happen. I saw these people fly out of the car. And like I said, I hadn't talked to him in a very long time. And as we're talking, I'm going, all right, he's got a little trauma from this, right. And just started talking to him and everything. But it's that's especially with the fire service. It's just hard for people getting out there and saying something. A lot of people, especially in the fire service, about 40% of them feel that if they do say something that they may lose a job, that sort of thing. What was it? A couple of years ago, Lagoon Medical came out and they actually found out that people that suffer from PTSD are lacking in a certain CB1 receptor. So by taking the CBD, that's what's actually helping them cope with the PTSD.
Why are they lacking that receptor? Is it from the shock? It's depleted like just the shock effect.
It's a trauma.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And it doesn't recoup on its own, so it needs assistance.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with these people. They're not in a situation where they've seen something horrible and they can't deal with it when their counterpart can. It's affected them. And what I studied in between getting this panel and being with you all here today was fascinating. And one of the things that I learned was shocking to me, and that was that generally those that suffer from PTSD, if you look at their anecdotal and experiential service in their life, they're very altruistic, they're very caring, they're very good people, and they do have good emotion. They are huge contributors to society, and to go through that and then not be given the voice that they need to assist other people is just it's criminal.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it too from that standpoint. When we talk about the trauma, it is trauma, but it's a repetitious training of it as well. All right, so when you're in theater for 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, 12 months, and you are exposed to constant barrages of bullets, mortars, whatever it may be, your body rewires itself. Okay? So when then you come back to the States, you got to rewire, but there's nobody helping us rewire ourselves. When we drive by and there's a trash can or a backpack sitting on the road, and I'm pulling the truck this way, and my wife's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh," and it hits you. damn, I'm trained to do that. I'm doing that automatically. So that's a big issue. We don't have that reintegration into normal life. It's just, hey, you're back. Go see your family.
Have fun.
And that's the issue. We've got to focus on that reintegration, that retraining, helping the mind get better. And CBD can absolutely help with that.
This is a good segue, I think, into the businesses that you all represent. So let's go ahead and just very briefly say what your cause is and what you're doing and how it's worked. Okay.
Absolutely. So I started Mission Zero, in a way to try to put the bat signal in the sky, for veterans to say, if I go here, I'm safe. The services that are provided, the resources that are here, they're true. Because who better than to lead the charge than those who have been failed by the system? So in my mind, it's like, you know what? I want to do my part to create that system for that future patriot. And when he comes home, he's got something other than a bottle of pills. What does that look like? Like he was saying, you have combat vets, that been in war for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 different tours. There's no coming back from that. I don't care. I mean, I was there for 14 consecutive months. Field artillery was kill, 24/7. And you get to a point where that is your life. And when you come home, what do you do with that, part of you? And so, we're committing suicide at a high rate because we're socially incapacitated. We don't like to talk. We lost the joy in just being around our own family, our own friends, even with ourselves. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is creating a new social engagement level, getting veterans, out of the home, interacting, because veterans trust other veterans. We had our 6 on the battlefield, but we can also have our 6 here at home. So one of the initiatives that we launched is a monthly event, Veterans Night Out.
Where is that?
We do it throughout the state.
Okay, Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're South Florida based, but we just did this last Sunday. We partnered with the Orlando Magic and True Leave as well, one of the MMTCs in Florida. We brought almost 100 veterans from, throughout the state to attend this game. It's a Seats for Soldiers game. With their wives, their kids. We had our own little private area there, food. These guys showed up, were given that VIP treatment, and it was a room, a buzz of camaraderie, resources. We had mental wellness organizations there. We had medical marijuana doctors there, education, empowerment. And it's creating just a new network for us because at the end of the day, no one likes to suffer in silence, right? We all need to be the voice of the voiceless. And we can do it together. So Mission Zero, prizes itself on just really being that facilitator, that hub, and working hand in hand. That's the biggest disservice that I've seen is a lot of the organizations, the NPOs out there do not work together. And that is counterproductive. We all have the same common goal. We should not only want to save lives, we want to give people reasons to live. And that's why we started.
Just hearing you say that, Freedom Flower now wants to have a flower for you all. So we will brand that. And that would be 100% reciprocated into your business. 100%. We don't make a dime on those. So yeah, let's do that. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So Veterans for Cannabis all came about in 2014 when I started growing medical cannabis in 2011 in Vermont. I went to Vermont because there was a great opportunity to mentor under a gentleman who's a rock star in the financial services industry. But my number 2 reason was that they had just passed their medical cannabis program in 2010. So I went up there. I started growing medical cannabis, and I was able to put that plant organically grown, hydroponically in my apartment, into my body, and help me reduce my opioid dependency by 80%.
Wow.
So I decided then, I was like, all right, I can work remotely. So I came back down to Atlanta. I traveled about 240 days of the year, and I was starting to advocate where I had a rep that came up to me and said, hey, can you tell your story in front of a Senate and House committee? So I sat down and told my story for the first time in the deep South in Atlanta, Georgia, actually in Macon, Georgia, and came out as a cannabis user. And at that point in time, I had so many people come up to me after that. There were like 8 or 9 people that said, hey, your story is so similar to my dad's or my mom's or my grandmother's or my aunt's. And I was like, wow, this is bigger than just me. So Veterans for Cannabis was born out of that day, and we became an advocacy group to start with where we advocated for medical cannabis access. In 15, I figured out that we weren't going to get medical cannabis cultivation passed in Georgia. So what we did was try to figure out what can we do. I went out to Colorado, started studying CBD and industrial hemp and focused on that. And the first kilo of CBD I bought was $40,000.
Oh, wow.
Where now the kilos we're buying are $1,500 to $2,500, you know, so that tells you where the industry's gone. But we put that product out there because that was a legal option that all veterans could utilize in a state that was not legal for them. So we had to find a safe alternative for it. So we started with a product. We have our own hemp grow operation in Wisconsin. We're going to try to put that together in Florida and Georgia. And our whole vision that we have for our nonprofit, Veterans for Collaboration now, is to work with organizations like Mission Zero, work with the other veteran service organizations, the American Legion, VFW, where we educate. We talk about what they cannot lose from their military benefits side, what they cannot lose from their concealed weapon carry side, and what they can do by getting into the industry and becoming small business and entrepreneurs in this space.
Concealed carry. Can we just jump on that real quick? Because I have heard that over and over again.
And you'll hear it over and over again because
if you
it's the
have a
main
concealed
question.
carry, they say you can't get a medical card.
Correct.
Is that true?
That is false. That is
Okay.
categorically false.
In all the states right now that it's
In
legal?
all the states,
Florida, for example?
Yeah, so the reason is that the federal system doesn't talk to the state system.
Okay.
State system controls the gun permits that are issued, all right?
Right.
The issue that you run into is purchasing a weapon after that.
Okay.
However, they haven't really closed that
So
loophole
if someone
yet.
has a concealed carry, they can still get a medical license.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
No problem. It's when you go to buy a new weapon.
The opposite.
That they've added a question on there at the
Yeah.
federal level that in parentheses now says even a medical cannabis program is federally illegal and you cannot. But look, I'm not telling you to answer it yes or no. I'm just telling you to answer it accurately and honestly. So to answer the question, no, concealed weapon permit is not. It is legal to carry a concealed weapon
So
and have
if
your
someone
medical
has a
cannabis card.
CCW, they can go out and get a medical cannabis card and not be denied.
Absolutely.
For that. That's good information.
But stay on top of that because last year they tried to close that loophole at the federal level to make sure that states and federal program talk to each other to where they limited that. And the states, there are some reps and senators in this state that are trying to close that loophole too. So if you get nothing from this meeting today, it is a call to action that you've got to get involved. You have to talk to the state reps and senators to make sure that they cannot take those concealed weapon permits from us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, because of CBD, I mean, that's why I got into this whole industry was, basically because of the PTSD and how it helped. One of the biggest things I found was with dosing. After about a week or so, I started feeling changes and everything. So as far as the fire service goes and the police service, because there's THC in it, that's still going to be a very big problem for us as public
it's the
servants.
0.3%.
Right, and if you think about it, you know your research that you want that CBD, you want that THC in there, so you can have the entourage effect. For us in the fire service, that's a little bit harder. So again, this is going to be a fight. Maybe when things here in Florida change, and I'm sure it's just a matter of time, marijuana will be legal in the state of Florida, then at that time marijuana will be looked at more as alcohol. And it won't be a problem. But right now, just going out and trying to educate all these different fire departments and police forces about that. So I mean that's the big thing right now. So
You said you medicated. What was your dosing that you did?
Well, I had 300 milligrams of CBD, and I started off with a half dropper. So I was taking a half dropper for about 2 days. I didn't feel anything, and then I actually went up to a full dropper. So I was probably doing about 50 to 60 milligrams a day of CBD, and that's when I felt a change, and I was able to sleep at night. I haven't grinded my teeth since.
Oh,
But you know what? One of the important things, being a fireman and going on calls, we go on a lot of calls where people will be on a different type of medication and they feel well, and guess what? They don't take their medication. And we get there and, all right, what's your medication? Well, I take this and I haven't taken it in a long time. Why? And I think it's the same thing with CBD. I mean, if you're taking it, you have it in there, and you're starting to feel better. Don't stop taking it. Right. Continue.
Does
to
it
take
over time? Are you able to decrease your dosage over time, like an adaptogen was with nettle seed for me? Are you able to slowly start to decreasing your dosage after a certain given of time, or have you not tried it, or do you know anything about that? Any of you? Please jump in.
Mine maintains. I'm huge on the advocacy because for the first time in 15 years, in August, I took my last pill from the VA. I'm on nothing.
Awesome.
And these people have had me on, quinipine, lamotrigine, Ambien, Prozac. I mean, you name it. But you get to a point where it's like, you're not your true you yet, And so with CBD and medical cannabis, it's gotten me to a point where, I am just, functioning on my own per se. And
What's your dosage?
It's about a half a dram. I do about 1,500 milligrams a day. It really, I have, again, my traumas, and this is just to give you a real life scenario of why, this is so important, is, I witnessed a child die in theater, a 7-year-old shot in the headshot. We got her body, and she still had a pulse, and, praying for her not to die. She dies in front of me, have to close her eyes. I have a 6-year-old daughter now. I can't see my daughter lay in certain positionings that, when she's sleeping, or like my mind constantly goes back there no matter what. I have issues with hearing babies cry. Our commander found out that we had puppies, and you know what he did? He took the puppies, put them in a duffel bag, and shot them all in front of us. So I have, that's the kind of twisted stuff you don't even think about. So every day, we constantly just have to kind of dance around this stuff. So CBD and the right dosage allows us to function.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
And I might, if I'm feeling something come on, I might go over there and take a couple extra drops.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I will do that. I mean, like you said, sights, smells, things that you do. I went to Katrina after the hurricane, and a lot of the stuff, we were there the day after the hurricane hit, and we had to go by and do search and rescue. So we went through probably that first day at least 200 homes, and in those 200 homes, I found probably about a dozen people that had died in their attics where the water was rising, and they got up in the attic, and that was part of the things. We recently moved, and I was putting stuff in the attic, and I felt, a little anxiety coming on from that, and I came down and I started taking some more. But yeah, the sights in the cell,
I have that with ambulances. When people are driving, and I know that those ambulances saved my husband's life multiple times, and I'll never forget the time nobody was moving over. I'm like, he's gonna die. You're not moving your car, you won't turn. So when I see that now and people don't move over, I know where that track, we all have that.
Yeah,
so.
those 15 miles that we have there and where I live on I-75, I could take you to every little dent, scratch that I've been on an accident before. I'll be driving doing 70 miles an hour and it just it sticks out to me.
Right.
Every time, and like you said, with kids, I have 4 children, and probably that's the one. That's the one I had nightmares about. But I had 4 children and a dad, and it was horrific. And the other vehicle that had hit him head on. Drinking, that car was completely on fire with a patient trapped. 2 kids killed. The father was killed in there. And for me, the why. Why? For us is I understand the war part of it, but the other stuff is the why, trying to figure out, you're trying to help someone, but why did this happen? Here in Florida, we have just a ton of, so far this year, I've been on at least 75 overdoses. Wow. Out of those 75 overdoses, I would say that probably about half of them are frequent flyers, meaning that I've ran on them before, and I've told them, I am not going to be here the next time to save you. And I can tell you, out of half of those people, you don't see them anymore. And 2 or 3 of them, I've actually made a connection with their family. It's like, here's some, I've gone there off duty, given them information and said, you need to go here. How about you come to church with me? And have them come to church, and then they'll relapse. And then I'll come back to their house 2 weeks later on a call, and they're dead. And that's, for us, that's the biggest thing. That's why I think especially in the fire service, why you're seeing it.
So you're definitely seeing that we need to get this out there, how it's going to assist PTSD, traumatic situations. It sounds like getting out of drug situations, as an herbalist. Oat straw was something that was very effective in getting people off of Oxycontin, believe it or not. But that's just getting you off. It's not doing more like cannabis does, and healing. And I think that's the difference between cannabis and anything else, and that is that it actually heals. Can we talk about how it heals. Let's move into that realm a little bit.
Yeah, I think the homeostasis, I mean, you guys mostly know about it. It's really finding that perfect balance in your system. And if your body's having an out of whack moment, if you will, and you can supplement that with something that's going to help it reset or rebalance itself, then that's really key. And that's not only just the supplements that are going into your body, but that's actually the food that's going into your body. And that's a real big part of what we're trying to train and educate the veteran community on too, is know what you're putting in your body. So if we're going back to plant-based health, plant-based medicine, look at the organic foods. My wife and I don't eat beef and stuff from the store, but if I kill a deer, kill a hog in the woods, we'll eat it because it doesn't have hormones and additives into it, right? So that's a big part of it, is knowing what's going in your body and resetting that system. And that's exactly what the cannabis plant does, because we have that endocannabinoid system and allows us to find that new balance.
That's fascinating. I also moderated a pet panel earlier, and they talked about some of the things that you don't give pets because pets will die, but we give them to humans. Okay? Makes sense. So and preservatives, all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Oh, that kills a dog, but we eat it every day. So go ahead.
I think it just comes down, like you said, the key word is balance. That's all we need to have, and cannabis allows us to kind of just find that inner healing, that inner peace and balance. It's a tool in a tool belt, right? And it's one of our most valuable ones. It was put here on this planet for us for a reason. There's a reason that you see the positives from it, and no one person has died from consuming cannabis. That's my biggest argument with the United States government. It's like you post your statistics on overdoses publicly every day. You're acknowledging that your medications are fatal. But when you pivot to cannabis, there's a big zero there. But you still, at this time, are complicit in this, and that's why this fight is so important. Cannabis is not a political issue.
Everywhere.
It is a right from wrong. At the end of the day, we can't change the wrongs we did yesterday, but we can make a conscious choice today, right now, to move in the right direction. We just have to keep the pressure on them.
Oh, yeah.
To add to that, I think education is just really key. I mean, my background is in education, and I just getting the word out there. I mean, going to these shows like this, I'm going to go to the Safety and Health Conference. I mean, that is key, is educating people, because they don't know. When I came to the fire department and told them I was going to get in the CBD business, you should have seen their jaws.
Sure.
They were like, "Oh, we knew it," and I'm like, "Whatever, go ahead." And, they had a labor attorney look into it and everything, and they came back and they said, "All right, you can go ahead and get in the business." Awesome. And but education is key.
I want to piggyback on the back of that too, Joe. The key is education from you all. And what I mean is, talk to the people in your community. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your grandmother. Talk to your daughter. Talk to your husband, whatever. And the issue is, we walk into the VFW, and you want to talk about cannabis at the VFW. Oh, we don't want to hear about that stuff. With their cigarette in their mouth and their beer in their hand. We don't want to hear nothing about that, knowing that the things that they've got in their hands right now are going to kill them. And what did Jose say? We're still steady zero for 10,000 years on the deaths related to cannabis. So that's the big issue, is education. We have to get out in the community, not in this room. You all believe. Go out from here. It's that call to action we talked about earlier. Go out from here and do something.
Connect with these guys after this panel too. So you talked about the entourage effect. Of course, the whole plant it grew as a whole plant for a reason, not like here's the CBD plant, here's the THC plant. It's a whole plant. Okay, it's given us. And if you look at it, grows everywhere. Okay, so the cola nut grows in places where Ebola happens, and that is an indigenous cure for Ebola, is the cola nut. And it's interesting that the plants grow where the cure is needed, and you can see that, as an herbalist, all across. When it comes to cannabis, it's prevalent everywhere. It grows everywhere. And that tells us that that's available to us, and I think that's really awesome. We have just a few more minutes. I'd love to be here for another hour, but I'd just like to let anyone ask you questions, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
We're located in Parkland, Coconut Creek. My wife, my two kids, and our son goes to MSD, Margie Stoneman Douglas. And for Memorial Day this last year, I said, given what's happened to the community of Parkland, especially first responders and the military, men and women of that community, I wanted to put on an event free and bring as many nonprofits, to this Memorial Day Fest, and NAMI was one of them, and we've established a relationship there.
So specifically from our direction is we've reached out to organizations like that, but they've not been open to the conversation and dialogue because of, Schedule 1 status. And that's their pushback is till you get changed, the Schedule 1 status, we really can't do anything around it. So they'll talk to us about it, but getting active and then actually stepping here on this panel with us, it's almost impossible for them because federally their hands are cuffed. But industrial hemp opens up the opportunity for them.
Spreading the word individual by individual,
Correct.
each life saved. Yes. Do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm from Oregon, I just moved to Florida, and in Oregon it's legal, and so there, NAMI was involved with the nonprofits, and so I'm involved with NAMI now in Palm Beach County.
That's
excellent.
awesome.
So I'm gonna advocate for you guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you. That's great. Any other questions?
There's got to be some more. Come on now. Don't be shy.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
So as far as getting involved for the fire department, veterans community, what are specific tasks that we can do?
Mission Zero, you want to start?
I think, one of the biggest things is using our voices. At the end of the day, go to your city commissioner, go to your city commission meetings, meet with the local mayor, sit down, have a conversation. If there's ever, an opportunity to speak, I go, take the time and sit down and educate them, go to the state capitol. Josh was amazing at that as well. Go to Washington, D.C. Use social media. It's all about awareness at this point. Pick up the phone, make the phone calls, and, if you know another veteran, right?
Especially
Connect.
brand ambassadors.
Correct.
Influencers.
And you have to think there's over 20 million of us in the country, and a lot of us have been demotivated, but we can motivate each other. So it's just having that conversation and,
Yeah, I think it's getting involved. Look at the organizations that you've got up here and then look at the other ones that are in the industry themselves and then vetting them out and find out who to get involved with. But you don't have to be involved with just one. Volunteer for Mission Zero, volunteer with VFC, volunteer with the fire department, do all that, but get involved. That's the issue is that they don't get out. And you're a veteran. You don't see it in our community that we're willing to step out and say hello because we are so closed in and so standoffish that we've got to open up and break those doors down.
amen.
I think it's a little more difficult for the fire department and the police service because we're here to help the public. We don't want to open up those things and let people know because we're the ones that are supposed to be taking care of people. Internally, we have now the unions are getting involved and we actually have camps that the guys can go to. Now, just last month, we have 2 people on each shift of ours. We have 3 shifts, so 2 people. If we have anything that's traumatic, bad vehicle, I had someone who choked the other day and they didn't make it. And, we had the chief come over, you guys good? We need to talk about it. So internally, we're trying to work on that. So really, the biggest thing I would say is if you see a first responder out there, thank them.
Yeah.
That goes miles. That keeps you going.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you. Any other questions we have out here? All right. Well, we're going to do just a quick closing statement for each of them. And please, afterwards, introduce yourselves and swap business cards and speak this truth. Help us.
I think it's just very important for us to have a mindset that's the framework around it is on selflessness and instead of selfishness, instead of, how can I do X, Y, and Z to benefit me? How can I do X, Y, and Z to benefit us? I'm a huge proponent in the unity and community. And, veterans, when we come home from service, we don't ask for much other than understanding and peace. And if you can help us find that, it would be greatly appreciated. But to go beyond measure, it's just incredible at this time. There's so many of us suffering from something. It does not have to be, combat related. I'm a huge proponent on just being kind and genuine because someone is suffering from something inside that you may not know about. At the end of the day, when I go back to those thoughts or those times where I almost pulled the trigger, ended my life, I didn't want to die. I lost hope. You know, so the acronym
yeah, that's
that,
different.
you know, we came up with, you know, as an organization is HOPE, right? It's happiness, opportunity, purpose, and empowerment. If we can provide someone happiness, that's going to open an opportunity. Now that's going to give that person a purpose again, and now they're going to feel empowered. So that's why, you know, it's not only about saving lives, it's about giving reasons, you know, to live, and we can do it together. So thank you for your time.
That is so beautifully said. It is about purpose. I sat in a closet one time too. It's about purpose and the future. So yeah, if we can make that mission go, please.
Holly, thanks so much too, just for you and sharing your story and just being a part of this.
Thanks for having
And in
me.
closing too, I think, you know, I'm a don't talk about it, I'm a be about it kind of man. So mine is a call to action to you all. Get involved. And what I mean is talk to the veterans that are in your family. Tell them about us. Tell them about the organizations. If they look like they're having an issue, stop and say something. Don't do inaction anymore. It's time for action, and it's time for action at the local level, getting out and educating your local community. At the state level, helping these lawmakers understand who we are, why we need access, whether it's industrial hemp or medical cannabis products, and why there should not be drug testing for medical cannabis products in the entire industry as well. So it's that call to action. Get involved. Help those out who look like they need help. Don't sit back and not ask anymore. And really just open up the dialogue and conversation. That's the key, is to do something.
Thank you.
I agree with you totally. Just getting behind them and helping, supporting, donating to the organizations, helping them out that way. I'm big on prayer. Pray for them. You know, one of my habits I have is when I go on a call, if it's something bad, I say a little prayer right there in my head. So I think that goes pretty far. So
Thanks for sharing that. All right, everyone, let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you all for coming.